Call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to a regular formal meeting of the Board of Commissioners. I remind you this is a formal meeting. It is being recorded both audio and visually, and everything that happens here is a matter of the record. We'll begin with awards and recognition. Do we have any?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting, May 2nd, 2018.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any additions to the agenda? Okay. For those of you who are accustomed to seeing Doug Olson on my left, this is not Doug Olson. This is Jennifer Blake, who is taking his place in his absence. So thank you, Jennifer. Is there anyone who would like to address the Board of Commissioners on an item other than that which is on the agenda? Okay, we'll go into our business. We will go into hearing mode and continue a land use hearing for 3-hour valve zone change request. Do you have a presentation? We are in a hearing.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Carol Johnson, County Planning Department. As a reminder, the hearing today is a continuation of the amendment request by applicant 3R Valve LLC, Kent Madison, to rezone EFU zoned land to RRSC commercial zoning through a Goal 3 reasons exception. Since the last hearing, the applicant has narrowed the Goal 3 request to the use of the property only as the RV park and withdrew the rezone for the other list of uses. Also, the applicant supplied additional information as the alternative sites analysis, which is now included in your packet. Additionally, that revised information was placed into the staff report and findings. And that's presented to you today. It was in the packet that went out last week. The information the additional information seems to complete the necessary support for the Goal 3 exception and the limited commercial use of the property as the RV park. And today the board's decision is either to approve or deny that request. And that's just a brief update of where we are today. Thank you.
Okay. Questions of planning?
Okay, the major changes, then Carol or Bob, either one, then would allow the conditions to be met.
Yeah, there are findings in the revised. This
Okay.
was an email that came in from Kent, also addressing the additional analysis that was submitted earlier that's in your revised staff report.
Okay.
And these will also be incorporated into the revised findings.
Okay. We need to, what I'll do is move that this be submitted into the record.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that this information from land use planning be incorporated into the record. The 4 bullet points were provided by Kent Madison, who's the managing partner in the project.
Carol, what number is that?
If you look at your revised list that was sent in your packet, we are adding today to the record number 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all in your revised packet, and this would be number 23.
Okay.
Okay.
I would,
Did we vote? I don't think we voted.
I would amend that motion to include the aforementioned numbers.
You accept that?
I'll accept that.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, anyone else wish to speak on this matter while we're in hearing mode?
Our proponents and our opponents.
We have we have planning. Are there anybody else wish to speak on this matter as a proponent?
The applicant just pressed
Yes. All right, but he's not standing. So, any opponents?
So question to Carol. Can we ask that question now in this hearing? I was absent during the past week. Does this now, as far as planning department?
Findings show that he meets for the RV park those sections of the approval document for the exception, for the goal exception for the RV park. It would be limited just to that.
Very good.
Any other? All right, we'll go out of the hearing, back into our meeting. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the request.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. We approve the request. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Land Use Planning. Item number 2, I believe, Robert, are you item 2?
I am, yes.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Bob Walder, Planning Director. The next item on the agenda is for the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line project. If you remember, back in September of last year, we completed a completeness review of the application, or the amended preliminary application for site certificate, which Idaho Power submitted to the Oregon Department of Energy. At the end of April, Department of Energy came back to us and asked for confirmation that we are satisfied with the responses provided by Idaho Power Company. We've gone through those as staff and find that they answered the questions that we provided in the review. And so as part of that, we'd just like a letter sent on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to Oregon Department of Energy stating that we concur and that the completeness review is done. And we will also be given another chance for public comment, or the county will be able to comment on the project during the compliance review period, which is still out there a few months. But I have the letter here. I'll give it to...
I would accept a motion that we move forward on this, including that
I would.
a letter be prepared. You already did.
Yes.
I would move approval and that the letter be signed by our chair.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Can this be signed?
Yes. Or I can get you another one if you need it.
That's all right.
I think Bob's still up.
You're still up, item 3. Here's your letter. This is the Trails Project Grants Letter of Support.
So as you're aware, the county has, for the last about a year, we've been working with the West County cities of Hermiston, Echo, Stanfield, and Umatilla on developing a concept for a West County trail. And as part of that, we are working with Susan Bauer of Eastern Oregon Business Source to develop 2 grant applications that could be used for technical assistance to help with the planning of that project. And so the first is the Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program offered by the National Park Service. So we will be submitting a grant to them at the end of June. And so as part of that, they require a letter of commitment from the county saying if we're selected, we'll be willing to contribute to the project. And then similar, we are also applying for a grant from Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development and ODOT, what's called a Transportation Growth Management Grant. And it also requires a letter of commitment from the county. So I believe you have 2 letters that you received yesterday. So those, again, will need to be signed if you agree to commit the county to these projects.
Bob, is the growth management the one I forwarded? I
Yeah.
just got.
Exactly, yeah. We submitted a pre-application on that back in March and are moving forward into the application stage. That application is due June 5th, and the other West County cities and other stakeholders are also providing letters of commitment to these projects.
Great.
Bob, is in-kind work permitted, and how much of the contribution from the county will be taken care of by in-kind contribution?
Yeah, so each grant is a little bit different. The RTCA grant is just technical assistance. So they provide a person from the National Park Service to come out here and guide us through the planning process, help with technical assistance where they can. The TGM grant, actually, if we're awarded that, the money goes towards hiring a consultant. And it does require, I believe, a 12% match. But it can be used as in-kind. So county staff and cities will be contributing to the project, so we won't have to contribute financially as match.
Mr. Chair, I move that the chairman submit a letter of support in both of these grants.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Very good, thank you.
All right, item number 4, a presentation by the Blue Mountain Horticulture Society. Whoever's presenting, please identify yourself and your address.
Good morning. My name is Pete Felice. I'm the Hermiston District Manager for the Oregon Department of Agriculture based out of Hermiston. And part of my area responsibilities is essentially all Umatilla County, including the production area of apple production area in Milton Freewater and parts of Morrow and Gillum. I'm here at the request of the growers in Milton Freewater. They have some concerns with apple maggot. They have submitted a letter to me, which I forwarded to the Director of Agriculture, Alexis Taylor. I'd like to take a minute to read it to you, and I have copies for you also. So this is their letter. It was issued on May 16th to Mrs. Taylor, the Director. We are writing on behalf of the Blue Mountain Horticultural Society and all the apple growers and packers in the Milton Freewater area regarding the establishment of an apple maggot pest-free zone in Umatilla County, Oregon. Milton Freewater is a leading producer of apples in Oregon. Approximately 1/3 of the people living in Milton Freewater area depend on the apple industry for their livelihood. We established the apple production. We estimate the apple production contributes $50 to $100 million to our community in the form of jobs, taxes, and commerce, etc. In order for us to continue growing, packing, shipping apples from this area, it is important for us to address this issue and be officially recognized as an apple maggot pest-free zone. The apple maggot has been found in Umatilla County, particularly here in the Pendleton area. Our apple production area has been digitally monitored by Blue Mountain Horticultural Society with an extensive trapping program for over 30 years. There have been no findings of apple maggots in this area. We have been working with Helmuth Rogg and Paul Bloom, he's an entomologist, he's here today, with Paul Bloom of the Oregon Department of Agriculture, the plant program. Who also has trapped the production areas and verified that it's a pest-free zone. He's got records, I believe, 8-10 years.
Yeah, for me.
Yep. If we are not recognized as a non-quarantine pest-free zone for apple maggot, the economic ramifications to implement the Washington, Oregon quarantine regulations would be devastating to our apple industry and our community as a whole. In addition, this would also place a huge burden on ODA's inspecting division to provide additional inspectors to monitor this. Washington State has already set a precedent of establishing a pest-free zone within the quarantine counties. Therefore, we are petitioning to establish the Milton Freewater area as an apple maggot pest-free zone within Umatilla County. We have defined the boundaries of our proposed pest-free zone and attached map. So I have some like them. I think the goal of the growers is to monitor more closely the Pendleton area. We went from just single-digit fines over the last several years to triple-digit fines of apple maggot in the county. So it's got the producers and growers very concerned that it could affect their marketing of apples. The Milton Free Water is very unique, is that they have an early market, earlier than the Washington state in many cases, and it's key to their survival, essentially, of apple sales and production in the region. So they want to maintain that. And Paul Bloom, entomologist, can give you a little more detail about the fines in the county. Paul?
So I'm Paul Blum, Oregon Department of Agriculture, and my office is in Hermiston. My title is Eastern Oregon Entomologist, so I'm responsible down to Klamath Falls and about 12 to 18 counties with the grasshopper program. So the history of apple maggot in Oregon is that most all of our western counties and then up along the Columbia up through Hood River County are quarantine counties because of the presence of the fly in that area. Everything east of that, except for the city boundaries of Pendleton, are considered fly-free. Pendleton is also a controlled area. So we've been trapping that for a long time to monitor the situation, and of course it was earlier trapping, which the details I'm not aware of, precede me and probably precede Helmut Rogge as well, established Pendleton as this quarantined area. I have records going back into 2000 when the fly population started to mount in Pendleton, and it hit over 300, I believe it was around 380 flies were captured, I think exclusively on or in the vicinity of the Blue Mountain Village apartments up on the top up there. And at that point, it was around 2005 or 2006, Helmut launched an eradication program trying to get it cleaned out of Pendleton, basically, and specifically from the Blue Mountain Village apartments. He was very successful, and we reduced yearly captures to 1 or 2 flies per year. Until the last 3 years, we have now started to see another resurgence, and it's not associated with the apartments anymore, but seems to be pretty widespread through the town. We trapped 117 flies during 2017. So the concern is, of course, there's no immediate production in Pendleton that's of concern, but the stigma that it places onto the county is an issue, but also there's a real biological concern that if the population builds and gets too strong here, it can easily be disseminated to surrounding areas, and of course to Milton Free Water would be of concern there. So that's kind of the history of the apple maggot situation.
So what's being done about it in Pendleton? Is there a schedule of spraying? Is that how that's controlled then?
Well, with the Blue Mountain Village Apartments, we had a spray program going, which the Horticultural Society was funding, and I was watching it basically and helping administer it. ODA itself doesn't get involved in making those applications, but in town now there is no direct effort going on, and I think that's part of our concern. I don't want to reach beyond what they want to say about it, but it's almost a kind of I would consider it. I live up in Prosser in Benton County, and we have a pretty active pest control district, and our person goes around and helps remove backyard trees and take away alternate hosts for pests like the apple maggot and codling moth and those types of things. And there's no spraying going on at our known localities right now. That would be a different program to launch, a rather involved and probably expensive program. But I think what this group would like to see is a good launch of a pest control person to try to do enforcement with the situations and help us get rid of the alternate hosts. Some spraying may become involved when you need to get rid of what's here now, but by removing hosts, that usually accomplishes that. And these guys should probably speak to what they're really hoping to get out of this. I'm more the biological representative.
Okay.
Our apple maggots have one generation per year here, and they come out in about June, and they're pretty devastating to the fruit. So.
Okay.
My name's Todd Davis, Milton Freewater, Oregon. I'm the president of the Blue Mountain Hort Society. And you guys helped us, what was it, 3-4 years ago when we established the pest board? Or we established a position to fund our pest board, or to go out and go after the backyard trees and that. And then we lost it here a couple of years ago, and we're hoping to get some money again to get that going, because if we have with the apple maggot, with moving around and stuff, that we need some backbone to go out if we do find a find to go out and do something about it. Where right now we don't have any way to do anything about it other than if we find it, then we lose our markets and we're out. Then they go into a 40-day cold treatment to be able to ship to Canada and California, these different markets, because of the apple maggot deal. And if you put you'll just watch the market go down in the 40 days while it's sitting in the cooler, where we could ship it out. Plus, we don't have the room to store that much fruit. It needs to be picked and keep moving because we don't have the storages to do all that. So that's what we're here for, is hopefully get some money to help us fund the program of going after the rogue trees and stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions? Okay. Others who wish to speak?
Ron, you're next.
My name's Bob Brown, and I'm General Manager of Earl Brown & Sons of Milton Freewater, Oregon. I just want to talk a little bit about to what Todd said about the ramifications of losing our early markets. It goes beyond just cold treatment days, and we're within 45 or 90 days of actually selling our fruit to the majority of the markets that we're used to selling to, the export markets, and losing that. But we also, WSDA is putting pressure on us right now. The fact is that our processing apples would all have to be inspected, and that's what Pete kind of talked about a little bit, about manpower it would take to inspect every load of processors that leave our area and travel through the state of Washington. And so the economic impact of having apple maggot in our area is just devastating, and could be the end of the apple industry. And that's, it may sound a little far-fetched, but it's very true, because we just, in this day and age, don't have the manpower to do that. And also feasibly losing $30 to $50 million early on in markets that we've lost. So it's very important that we have backbone, that we can go after the host trees and the backyard trees in our areas to make sure that we don't introduce apple maggot in our area, and to maintain our pest-free zone. So thank you.
Bob, when we did this before, what did we do? It was right in the city of Milton Freewater. How did we deal with those right in town?
What we did was we actually, working with the Blue Mountain Hort Society, and we had somebody employed that would go in and we would take those trees out, and the industry itself would have the landowner, if they had apple trees taken out, the producers would say, okay, you're allowed so many boxes of apples So we eliminated the host trees from this, and so we could continue that program because it's so important that we would give away fruit to the people that were, had their trees removed or whatever. So anyway, but it's very important that we have a person that monitors those hosts. It's not just apple trees, it's hawthorns. Paul, you can talk about some of the different host trees.
Hawthorn, crab apple,
Blackberry bushes.
No, I don't think blackberry.
pears, yeah.
So anyway.
For in-town situation, probably the
Haw-
ornamental crab apple and the ornamental hawthorns are our biggest issue.
Yes.
So the effect of establishing the apple maggot district would be to do what? To put everyone together so they had the strength and financial capability of taking care of this?
Yes.
And does that require an election for the people to declare it a district?
I don't know right now, Pete, you could,
No,
because you work with APHIS.
for the important, no, we just need to submit information to Animal Plant Health Inspection Service to provide that information that we have data supporting that the production area is free from apple maggot. And if they accept that, then it's recognized by countries, foreign countries, and it allows them to continue to ship their produce to Dubai, to Canada, all over the world.
Yes.
And that's you'd be surprised how many countries that Bob and Todd ship to out of the free water.
Also,
Maintain those markets by providing this.
and one of our big people that we would is the Washington State itself, because they're really putting a lot of pressure on us, and to make sure that they don't increase their pest-free zones. And apple maggot actually, and Paul knows more about this, but it travels through people throwing apples, out off the side of the road. If you have culls that are hauled to treetops, say in Seattle, Washington, in open trucks or whatever, it's easy for an apple that may fall out of that truck on its transport up there. They were concerned about this and make sure that's not how they spread the pest. Am I correct in that, Paul? That's one of the...
That's true. The other thing is nursery stock that gets moved around that's contaminated.
So,
So
Bobby,
if
what-
we lose this pest-free designation, it requires inspection of every acre of apples, every shipment, including coal shipments. So anytime it left his production area, it would have to be inspected, which would be very expensive.
So talk to us about staffing. What do you envision for regulatory staffing on this?
well, and Todd can talk a little bit more about this also, because he has a better history of what we had to, who we employed before. And Teddy, you know more about with the weed-free area. Maybe you can speak on our behalf too on what we had before with the people that you worked with, and how many people we would need to go out help. Right now, the state of Oregon is doing extensive trapping, and they're taking care of that for us right now. But it may have to come down to increased staffing as far as how many traps that they are looking at in our area. So that would incur a cost through the state of Oregon. Right now, I'm going to work with Alexis, the head of the Department of Agriculture, and see if we can get some general funding to help pay for the additional trapping. But what we would like to see from the county is maybe some help in funding, or help fund somebody to go around and help establish where these trees are, and our industry could go and cut these trees down. But we would need somebody to help inspect the area to make sure that we eliminate the host varieties.
So before we had a half-time person, I think. Is that correct, Todd? We had one half-time person that was only in the Milton Freewater area.
Right.
So expanding this, a half-time person, you're talking about county-wide, so that's going to take a little more than a half-time person.
We were thinking, like,
Pendleton area is just like Yakima. They have areas just like this that have apple maggot problems. We're not sure after catching 177 if we could even do a whole lot about this. We're after protecting our area. We have a half-mile buffer.
Half mile.
And basically having some enforcement, some backbone, if we do have a fine, be able to have someone to go out and talk to that homeowner about cutting that tree down and cleaning that area up or spraying it or whatever, but keeping our quarantine area clean. We're just want help when we do start to find something. We have some way to go after it, because right now if we do, we can't do anything.
I do know from this in the past, the history of it, and I think we had two different individuals. One actually, I believe, passed away while he was doing the work.
Yeah.
But then the next individual they found, I'm not sure what transpired, but took it, and correct me if I'm wrong, took it upon himself to go into some backyards.
Yes.
We ran into some issues there.
Yes.
We did. That was
Looking through some windows or
Yeah.
doing some other things.
it wasn't good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why we need help from the county, Umatilla County, to, if it's a part-time person or whatever, but it's very important that, because we're doing a little bit of inspection on our own, of course, but we need some help, and we also need some backing from the county to give us, the opportunity to be able to do that without looking in back people's windows or whatever, but, I mean.
Okay. So the creation of this zone would give you that authority to be able to protect the apple crop, which is
Yes.
an important economic factor in the county. And because I haven't seen any request here to present, there's no request for funds that I can see in this as yet.
And we haven't, and we just thought that we would, we can come up with a better, an outline of what it would cost or whatever, but at this point, we just wanted to let you know what we're running into and give us an opportunity to talk to you about it and
So-
history.
The first step would be, you folks are asking us to form the district.
I think we have the district. We formed that pest district back when we met with you guys before. I think we have the pest district, but we don't have any enforcement.
Okay, so, but the pest district, I don't think it was countywide, was it, Todd, or was it?
I think it was.
Just the Mountain Freewater area?
Yes, yes.
Because we knew to come over here, I mean, it's
It's almost going to be impossible. It's now spread from the Blue Mountain Apartments to the North Hill of Pendleton up towards the east of here. Is that correct, Paul? You know more about the trapping. It's now expanded.
Okay.
And so,
We can't ignore Pendleton either. Don't you agree? We need to do something in Pendleton, otherwise, it's going to be a.
what?
Does
Thank you so
Hood River
much.
County have this type of a district countywide?
No, they do not.
What, some other counties in Oregon that have it?
There is none.
So we'd be the
So,
first.
Hood River County is in a predicament right now. They don't have official trapping like Paul has done from ODA.
Okay.
They have trapping that has been performed by the growers, which a lot of countries won't accept grower certification. It needs to be state official government certification. So they're scrambling right now to figure out how to handle the situation in Hood River County.
Okay. So with us forming or having a countywide district, I can't refer to Jennifer, she's not our legal counsel, but she's sitting in his place today. I want to be sure that we can do this either by vote or without a vote, but what the full legal process that we need to go through to do this, so that somebody doesn't come back and start screaming saying, you aren't coming on my property and cutting my trees down. You run into that. I know we had an apple tree, you don't have to worry about it. I cut it down, but it wasn't because of apple maggot. It was blocking our satellite dish, so it came out.
Worse than there's options. It's not only cutting down. I know Paul has talked about programs in Washington where they give them kind of an outline of what they can do to reduce the population and eliminate it by spraying on a regular schedule. And then the enforcement guy may monitor that.
Okay.
Make sure that they're documenting and spraying their trees and, keeping them healthy.
Okay.
It's not just eliminating.
Extending the district throughout the county would impact, for example, I have 2 apple trees. That would require that I would spray them on a regular schedule and so on.
And if
There
you
are
can't,
some
you can hire
requirements.
somebody to do it.
I might get some fruit for a change.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a tree I could sacrifice for the fruit.
So,
The main concern is the production area.
right.
Yes.
What, Mr. Chair, what I'd like to do, I'd like to hear from Mr. Orr.
Teddy?
Because I know he and our Public Works Director had some discussion. They haven't made a decision. It was just a preliminary. What are some ideas on how to deal with this? So, Ted?
Teddy Orr, Umatilla County Weed Department. Some of the stuff that the Public Works Director and I discussed is possibly assuming the position through our office without hiring a position. That was preliminary. We don't know if it's feasible or not. Depends on how much time is dedicated to this position. If we can limit to 10 to 15 hours every probably 2 weeks, we could probably manage it. It would be difficult. Ultimately, I would like to see a position hired if we're going to assume this, to specifically address that situation as a whole. I do think it would be difficult to kind of manage it through our office without a position, but would be possible. Beyond that, in the past, I believe the Horticulture Society funded the traps, and we provided a vehicle and fuel, and then we provided the employee, and I think it was a 50% match, if I'm correct, right? So
10,000 each, I think.
yeah, it was 50% match up to $10,000 is kind of the history of that position that we had previously. I came on late. There was some history with the employee that I didn't get, or that I kind of was made aware of, and then we had some follow-up history that basically ended in termination of the position. But it would be difficult, I think, as a whole to find somebody specialized for that position with approximately 10 to 15 hours a week and work seasonally. So it's going to be a unique person irregardless of who we find. So.
And possibly easier to accomplish within the department already.
Correct.
So,
And we would have to have basically set up some formal training for whoever we decide to put in that position. So we'd have to give them the needed training to be able to handle that position. So, but it is a possibility. It would stretch us thin, but we could possibly manage that. So.
okay.
Okay. Other questions? So I think at this point, it's not a funding issue, but we would probably need a motion that we move forward with the conversation. How's that?
I will move we continue this conversation with our weed department staff. I'm going to pull Mr. Paul into this. He's doesn't know anything about weeds, but he seems to have a good handle on the checkbook. So.
And our legal counsel.
And legal counsel, Doug Olson. I don't think you folks were looking for a decision this morning, but you wanted to present some information. And yeah, we're already, as Teddy said, we're already working on some ideas to try and move forward.
I think I heard within the motion that the liaison to Public Works would guide the process. Did I hear that?
No, you did not hear that.
I certainly think that would be appropriate.
Are you seconding that?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, items number 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Hang
Oh,
on.
yep. Okay, thank you. Item 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all election payables. One is for ballots, one's for postage, one's for maintenance, and one is for envelopes. In the absence of legal counsel, I think we could have a single vote.
I would move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item number 9, copier purchase, community corrections.
Legal counsel never leave.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dale Primer, Umatilla County Community Justice Director. Yeah, pretty straightforward request here today. Our 5-year lease on our equipment is coming due. We've got worked with County Council to go out for bid from the state contract. That bid came back in to the tune of $17,833. It's a budgeted expense. This is a purchase of this equipment, and in the past we have leased this equipment. The purchase over the course of the 5 years would save us about $10,000 to make purchase as opposed to lease. So it's cheaper, and I think Tammy's actually been looking forward to this day for about 4 years and 6 months. Our last one was kind of a...
Certainly makes financial sense, doesn't
Let the record show that Tammy nodded vigorously.
it? Chair, move
You
approval.
have a neck injury by the time we're
All in
done.
favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Is that it? You don't need anything else from me? I mean, I could...
Yep.
Home free.
Jennifer?
Jennifer Blake, Human Resources Director. The next item before you is the Equal Pay Act Comprehensive Study. HR has gone out and asked for a contract proposal from HR Answers, who happens to sit on the Bully Committee for this Equal Pay Act, to help us perform a comprehensive study of our pay structure in order to comply with this new law. And this request is for approval to move forward with HR Answers to perform this study.
I move approval.
Second.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Robert, are you item 11? Alicia, what item are you? What? Oh. All right.
Would you like one?
Well, thank you for providing an audience.
Robert Paul, CFO. The next 3 items on the list, 11, 12, and 13, are an effort to bring some funding into the actual budget that has not been there previously. The Academic Achievement Award Fund was set up a number of years ago as a non-budgeted item, but I believe that correctly it and the juvenile work crew and also the tax prepayment are all actually special revenue accounts and should be changed from their current accounting to actually budgeted items.
I have no questions. Ready for a motion?
Yep.
I'd move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move forward on items 11, 12, and 13. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. Okay, supplemental budgets. We're going into hearing mode. Okay.
Staff report, Robert Paul, CFO. There are 6 supplemental budgets to be considered today. I'll read a brief description. The advertisement and the notice of supplemental budget appeared in the May 9th issue of the East Oregonian. Budget Order 2018-60, foreclosed property. The foreclosed property program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $100,000 and an increase in materials and services of $100,000. Budget Order 2018-61, alcohol, drug, and gambling services. The Alcohol, Drug, and Gambling Services Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in state revenue of $80,000, an increase in personnel services of $30,000, and an increase in materials and services of $50,000. Budget Order 2018-65, Wind Farm Distribution. This program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $200,000, an increase in materials and services of $230,000, and a decrease in contingency of $30,000. Budget Order 2018-66, Court Security Program. The Court Security Program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers in of $30,000 and an increase in personnel services of $30,000. Budget Order 2018-67, Economic Development. This program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in beginning cash of $52,600, an increase in state revenue of $7,400, and an increase in materials and services of $60,000. Budget Order 2018-68, General Fund Health Department. The Health Department program requires a supplemental budget to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in local revenue of $57,000, an increase in state revenue of $76,160, an increase in personnel services of $3,607, and an increase in materials and services of $129,553. Those are the 6 supplemental budgets for consideration. Any questions?
Questions?
None.
All right, we'll go out of hearing and then back into regular session.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of Budget Order 2018-60.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2018-61.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Move approval of Budget Order 2018-65.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2018-66.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
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 Move approval of Budget Order 2018-67.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Move approval of Budget Order 2018-68.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
There are also 5 appropriation transfers. I'll read a summary of those. Budget Order 2018-58, General Fund. Program requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in transfers out of $30,000 and a decrease in contingency of $30,000. Budget Order 2018-59, General Fund Jail. The jail program requires a transfer of appropriations to budget funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in personnel services of $20,000 and a decrease in general fund contingency of $20,000. Budget Order 2018-62, Service Element 66 Treatment, part of the Alcohol and Drug and Gambling Program, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in personnel services of $15,000 and a decrease in contingency of $15,000. Budget Order 2018-63, Alcohol and Drug, Service Element 80, Gambling Prevention, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in personnel services of $5,000 and a decrease in contingency of $5,000. And Budget Order 2018-64, Wellness Hubs, requires a transfer of appropriations to appropriate funding not known at the adoption of the budget. This requires an increase in personnel services of $20,000 and a decrease in contingency of $20,000.
Questions?
None. Mr. Gibbons, you have the list.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would move approval Budget Order 2018-58.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I would move approval Budget Order 2018-59.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. I would move approval of Budget Order 2018-62.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. I would move approval of Budget Order 2018-63.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I would move approval of Budget Order 2018-64.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. And our final item on the agenda is an appointment to the Budget Committee. I assume this is a resolution. Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
This is resolution number BCC-2018-042, making an appointment of accepting the resignation of Nancy Mabry and appointing Bobby Levy to the Budget Committee.
I know Bobby Levy very well, know her to be very capable in serving in this position. Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That concludes our agenda. Mr. Alfring, do you have something you'd like to add?
To the agenda?
No, to the debate or this
To our discussion.
Yeah.
From a commissioner standpoint, it's very good to be back after attending a conference for the city-county insurance services in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Found it to be a very pleasant place to be. A very small area downtown, historic, and it was very nice to be there and to be able to walk. I got my steps in every day, so and it was important discussions that were held there pertaining particularly to technical issues regarding the insurance services that are provided to cities and counties. I attended it also yesterday. I actually convened a meeting of the Oregon Solutions pertaining to housing in the area. We had about 35 people attend that meeting, and there was actually, I went into it not knowing exactly what to expect, thinking perhaps it was going to be a rehash of things that we've already covered in our study group, housing study group already. There were some new issues that were brought in, some new suggested help that is offered. Morrow County was represented by Commissioner Lindsay, and also had some additional personnel there from Gary Neal presented from the Port of Morrow. I think it was fruitful. It'll be helpful, and I'll be looking forward to presenting some additional data to our housing group. Other than that, it's good to be here.
Okay.
Commissioner Gibbon?
I don't have anything.
Just a matter for record, at the staff meeting yesterday, I reported the fact that the task force on courthouse facilities rated all of the projects in the state of Oregon. Our request for $465,000 to renovate the front of the courthouse to create additional security and a checkpoint received a favorable response from that committee, and we are now fourth on the list, which is a good position to be in, and it's highly likely that in the next session we will be fully funded for our courthouse renovation project.
Excellent.
So.
Excellent. There was discussion at the board meeting pertaining to AOC finances, and they're moving ahead with a financial audit and to finish up the conversion that they're undergoing from the system that they were using over to QuickBooks, which seems to have been a difficult item. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I have nothing further.
Okay. We're adjourned.